But quarterbacks have been needed all over the league this year. Point that I made to you on Monday, and I reiterated yesterday on the PFTPM podcast that I do on Wednesdays in season, we can't expand the league. We can't. I'd love to. I'd love more teams, more games. You can only get
it's just going to water it
maximum,
down.
I think, of 18 regular season games. Like, it's just a matter of time before the NFL pushes the union to go to 18. Beyond that, to increase inventory, you need more teams. But there aren't enough quarterbacks for more. There aren't enough for 32. How are we going to 34 or 36? Isn't it amazing? There aren't enough guys for all the players that we see at the college level. There aren't enough. More than enough running backs.
Sure.
Not enough quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, it is amazing. It is. I mean, and what I would say it's a systemic problem. One, that's where I would say college football hurts the NFL in the developing of quarterbacks. That's another issue. It's so simple right now. It's going backwards in that direction as far as offensive linemen and their development, where they're at, and all of that. I would say that's part of the equation to a degree. And then, Mike, the other part of it too is what I'll say, and you've heard me say this before. I think there's more of a offensive coordinator problem in football than there is the quarterback problem. I know we got injuries this year, we got issues, but man, I mean, there's a lot of offenses and things I look at where I just go, yeah, well, these defenses have evolved, and there's a handful of offensive coordinators that are like, nope, this is what I learned in 1997, and I'm not going to change. And they're not giving quarterbacks, even backups, whoever it is, the ability to have any advantages on the football field. Plus I think, the running quarterback and what we got in football and all that, I do think that's leading to lower scoring. I do. I don't think it's actually leading to more points on the board. It might lead to more yards and rushing yards and passing yards in between the 30s, but, because of the running quarterbacks and some of that, I think we have some, guys in there that don't throw the ball as well as they used to 20, 30 years ago, on a consistent basis throughout the league. So there's a lot of things here. It's a deep subject. We could really spend a lot of time on it, in my opinion.
Well, and what we had seen for a while was a willingness by offensive coordinators to embrace the college quarterbacks that they were getting.
Right.
Design a system that meshes with what the college quarterback did well to get on the radar screen anyway. That's still a thing,
it's
right?
Still a thing.
They've understood you can't just jam the square peg into the round hole.
No, it's still a thing.
If you like the guy,
right,
do what he did to make you like him.
But everybody's doing the same thing in college. So then it's going to the NFL, and they're like, oh, yeah, we got in the spread in college, so let's do in the spread in the NFL. And all of a sudden you look around the NFL and you go, well, damn, there's 20 teams doing the same thing because they're doing it around their quarterback and the spread offense. They're doing it that way. And that's where I don't think it's necessarily, beneficial to explosive plays, points on the field. Again, I look at some of the top teams in football and you go through it and, you go to Philadelphia, Detroit, San Francisco, what's the first thing they're good at, Mike, right now? Oh, running the ball between the tackles, doing stuff like that, play action pass. There's more of that element to go. Baltimore, it's not your, everyday middle of the, offense. It's different, right? So I think there's a lot of things there that come into play, let alone I just think between defenses right now are more creative when I look at it. They have figured out how to defend offenses, and then the defensive line problem that we talk about where there's 8 good defensive linemen on every football team and there's barely 5 good ones on the offensive line. I think that also leads to the offensive issues we're seeing in the NFL with lack of scoring in some weeks and some games and matchups.
And think about that. Teams are having a hard time finding, developing, and keeping healthy 5 offensive linemen each. Yeah. But they all aspire to have a rotation of 8 defensive linemen that they can bring in and overwhelm, especially the deeper you get into the game. These guys are fresh. They've had time off. They're feeling good. They're feeling invigorated.
Exactly.
It's just odd to think. And maybe it's as simple as the guys of that size are choosing to chase the quarterback.
Yeah, I think so too.
Protect the quarterback.
Right. Right. Well, I think there is something to that. Think about it. You and me aren't that size, right? But just put it at a base level. What's more fun? put your hand in the ground, not think as much, and just go get the damn guy with the ball? Or, stop the crazy guys that want to go get the damn guy with the ball, stop them in their tracks, and then also have to, learn and think about all these damn things before you snap the ball. And then we got to work as a unit to stop these crazy guys who don't get to think at all and just fly upfield and be crazy. Doesn't it sound more appealing to be a defensive lineman than an offensive lineman? It does to me, at least.
Well, and I don't want to get on a cultural soapbox, but think about how selfless you have to be an offensive lineman.
Definitely.
And if everything goes well, if you do your job perfectly, you get no credit.
Yes.
Because what you've managed to do is fuel the machine that will result in all of the praise accentuated by fantasy football in today's NFL. The quarterback, the running back, the receiver, the tight end. We're talking about everything they're doing great. There's no fantasy football statistic for blocking, but without the blocking, none of that stuff is happening. So if it's not working, you're blamed, like in New York with the Jets. If it is working, you're forgotten. I think the personality type that is willing to accept that existence is rare today.
Yes.
With social media, instant gratification. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm saying get off my lawn here.
No, I hear you.
Realistic.
I think you're making a good point
In
here.
the 70s, it was still difficult to, it was kind of an old school, strong, silent type, not looking to get credit.
Exactly.
Doesn't care about the people who don't get it. The people who get it know that the reason that the offense is playing so well is because I'm doing my job. And I don't need the glory. I don't need the credit. I don't need the Instagram followers. I don't need to be the one that has a podcast. I don't, it's different now.
Yeah.
And what's the quicker path to fame and fortune? It's being a defensive lineman, not an offensive lineman.
No, I think there's a lot there to what you said, right? I think there's a little bit more of a, lack of or more machoism from the defensive linemen, and they're just, I'm the man, I'm going to kick butt and do all that. Where the offensive linemen, they have that, but they're more cerebral and maybe, into other things in life and looking at things a different way. I always kind of found it interesting, the contrast in the locker room between the offense and defensive linemen. You've heard me say it a little before, right? Offensive linemen, and I always love to say it like this because I had a weight coach that always explained it like this to me down in Tennessee. Jeff Watterson, he was the man, and he would, he'd be like, hey, these offensive linemen, they're like cows, they'll just sit in the corner and graze. And if you don't get the poker out every now and then, go, hey guys, we got to work, we got to do it, right? They'll kind of sit over there and, kind of, hey, are they looking? Okay, hey, we're good, right? They'll kind of do that. Where the defensive lineman's like, what are you looking at? Huh? I can lift more than you. And he's crazy and always looking for something to get him going and go after the quarterback and all that. And, it filters into the locker room too. Offensive linemen are big. They're over there, kind of quiet to themselves in the corner. And then the defensive linemen, they control the radio in the locker room more times than not. And it's usually loud and in-your-face type of music. And, I think there's a lot of psychology elements to what you're saying and what I'm saying that have, brought more defensive linemen to the field than offensive linemen.
I remember when Jim Mora, the son, was coaching the Seahawks. At one point in a press conference, he said that as it relates to offensive linemen, he is looking for dirtbags. And he stopped himself and said that's going to be on PFT. But
that's what he means.
But think about
right.
But think about, though, like in the 70s, and I'm not saying that I condone or endorse or encourage this behavior. Think about Conrad Dobler.
Yeah.
Right? There were dirtbag offensive linemen. There were guys that were dirty. There were guys that were nasty. There were guys that were stinky, literally and within their souls.
Right.
The offensive linemen today just seem kind of placid, like you said. They're grazing like cows. They're not nuts. They're not I just think the personality type to be an effective offensive lineman in this day and age,
yes, I hear
is
you.
Rare.
I think you're right.
And a large, strong, athletic individual is going to be more inclined to play defensive lineman or linebacker and be the one chasing the quarterback, chasing fame, chasing glory, chasing money. And yes, you do get highly compensated if you're very good at what you do, but there just aren't as many that I think are choosing that path. You have to find a way to encourage guys to choose that path, and I just don't think it's happening. So that may be part of it. And I think a lot of factors go into it, but the bottom line is quarterback play in today's NFL this year seems down, and one of the reasons is a lot of guys are injured, and we're going to see that playing out tonight. Before we pivot to tonight's game, I got to tell you something that and nobody cares about your dreams. It's like your fantasy football team. Nobody cares about your fantasy football team, and nobody cares about your dreams. But I did have a dream last night that you and I, let me just tell you this real quick.
Yes.
You and I were hanging out, and it was a Wednesday.
Okay.
Because you told me that as of Friday night, you were going to make an appearance on ESPN, and you were going to start making appearances on ESPN. And I said, Chris, I have a feeling NBC isn't going to like that. So I just remember that.
Thank you.
So
thank you for the advice, counselor.
Don't try to moonlight. Don't try to moonlight on ESPN. It potentially violates your exclusive contract with NBC. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.